Hello and welcome to another episode of What the Haze. I am your host, Hayes Wolfenden, author of the Jack Strong series of books and the poetry collection Made in China. My guests today are Alan and Brian Manning, two action thriller writers from Las Vegas. Welcome, guys.
Hey,
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're perfectly welcome. Really happy to have a couple of, especially action writers. You're the first action writers I've had on here actually so far. So
really?
love it. So can you tell me like a little bit about yourselves and your books, please?
Yeah, we're the Manning brothers, the original Manning brothers, not like those other two that do something else. I don't know. I don't know what they do. Brian
Football,
Manning,
American football.
American football. Brian Manning.
I'm Alan Manning.
Yeah, so basically, we've been writing since 2015, 2016-ish. We started with like a superhero trilogy, but we moved into action thrillers like almost immediately, and that's been our bread and butter since then. So
Actually, Brian was the first one to write. He started with short stories and was really excited about it. He wanted me to join, and I was just kind of resistant, like, oh, I'm not really a writer. I don't like, I don't know if, because I never did any kind of writing in school, and when I did, I struggled. And then he ended up doing the first superhero, 2% Power, the superhero one. And then when he was doing the second one, I helped him write that one, and then we started working together from there on.
Right, excellent. Yeah, you mentioned about not writing at school, but when I've been interviewing people on the podcast, that's not unusual. I didn't write at school. I wrote when I was at, primary school, junior school. Loved it. Loved
yeah,
reading, loved writing. And then like secondary school just killed it, to be honest. Like, it's so
when it was like
academic.
assignment.
Yeah, well,
I,
it wasn't just assignments. It was like very formalized assignments. It wasn't really
Oh,
about writing for fun. It wasn't
yeah.
about creativity. I wrote a story called, my first ever story was called The Color Red. And I wrote a war story about the Falklands War. And it opened up with like the sounds of machine guns and stuff. The teachers thought I was crazy. I was like 12 years old. I was
I
12 years
remember.
old.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
if I
cool.
could do that, I'd have been writing a lot more when I was younger. I used to overthink it. Just when it would be like a creative writing assignment, I would always do the
Yeah.
cliche one day or once upon a time. I feel like I didn't have enough the imagination to write a story, and then just random people in the class would write these things that were like, this is really cool. I'm not that, so I
Right.
won't try anymore. So it took years to start again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
I
me
think,
though.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. About to say for me
Well,
though,
carry
like
on.
I didn't really write, like I didn't really enjoy writing in school as well, but like while we were in high school, we played a lot of like tabletop role playing games, and I wrote full detailed backgrounds for the campaigns and for characters that the players never even heard or saw. It was just so I knew like the flavor of the stuff I was writing, so we just carried that into the books we've been writing.
Yeah, cool. I think as well when you're teenagers, at least for me, I wanted to make friends, and I struggled enough at that, and I wanted to get a girlfriend, and I sucked at that,
Yeah.
and that's your focus. And like, I don't know about America, but in the UK, when it comes to reading, you're forced to read a lot of like culturally important texts, which are all very good. I'm not saying they're not
Yeah.
good, but they're really for adults. And I'm a big believer that when you're at school, the books you should be reading should be designed to get you to love reading, not reading what we've decided this
Yeah.
important cultural text is. Like Shakespeare, for example. I love Shakespeare, but it's not really for 14-year-olds, and Shakespeare didn't write for 14-year-olds either. Um, you know. So yeah, guys, I know you're writing the is it the your main character's called John Stone in your action
Yeah.
thriller series, is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So can you tell me all about those books, please?
I will. I'm going to start, and then I'll hand over to Alan because this is basically his creation. So when I wrote
Right.
the first book of the superhero trilogy, I was trying to convince him to join me in that path, and he was helping with the second book. But he said, "I want to write an '80s action book that just takes place today, and I want the main character to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but not him." I was like, "Oh, okay, we'll do that then." And I just thought nothing of it. I just said, "Yeah, let's do it." And then he just had this idea that just carried on. So,
Yeah, so obviously the idea was just we were huge fans of action movies, especially the classic 80s 90s action movies. And then that's why I told him I want to do something like that, but I don't want to set it in the 80s, because we don't want to just say, oh, if you're not from this time, you won't appreciate it. So we set it to, present day stuff, but we kept a lot of just ridiculous 80s movie sensibilities, like cars blow up when you shoot them, and the bullets knock people off their feet when they get hit, just little things like that. But we wanted to keep it pretty modern. And then we do a lot of research on just guns and tactics like that in general. So I think while we have a lot of the over the top cinematic stuff, I think we have levels of realism that our readers really appreciate, and they let us know that too.
Yeah, they fall in line with like a lot of the modern day, like John Wick kind of stuff as well. So,
but yeah, on the topic that Arnold Schwarzenegger is literally the visual we want to have. We want people to say this is Arnold Schwarzenegger with a big mustache but no Austrian accent. Just he's an American action hero basically.
Yeah, do you have any favorite 80s movies? I mean, any of Schwarzenegger's movies that
yeah, Commando, Predator, Terminator.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
The original stuff is
Arnold's 80s action movies are really, really influential. Also, other characters, like we have characters from other books too that are based on like Jean-Claude Van Damme or Michael Jai White,
Right.
When Alan pitched his idea for John Stone, which had a very 80s feel, we decided we also wanted one that felt like the 90s, one that felt like early 2000, one that at the time felt like the 2010s. So we had these 4 characters that in our minds they would each get a trilogy and then come together like the Avengers. But the John Stone book started selling so well that we're just like, let's just continue John Stone and see where that goes.
Right. And we moved all those characters into that series.
Yeah, by the 4th book, we're like, we're just going to bring everyone in this point by book 5. So that was how we did that. But the other characters still have their origin story. It's just they're all part of the John Stone series. So the rest are technically spin-offs.
Excellent. Yeah, you mentioned as well that your readers have been in touch with you, saying how much they like the book. How do the readers get in touch with you? How do they let you know their feelings, that kind of thing?
We have a mailing list, and every time we send them an email about any of our other books, they talk about John Stone.
Also, we see a lot of they'll mention it in book reviews on Amazon.
Right.
They'll tell us what they love, and they tell us what they hate, and we actually do appreciate those 1 and 2 star reviews where they go into detail about what they actually really hate about our stuff, because it informs other readers that they see, hey, this is supermarket fiction where the bad guy has a gold-plated Mac 10 and that's just ridiculous. I'm never going to read that. But then someone else will see that and go, that's exactly the type of story I'm looking for, and they'll pick it up and give it a chance. And also, people won't waste their time if they don't want what we're writing,
Yeah.
So yeah, we see a lot of from the reviews. They tell us what they do and don't like.
Okay, I think it's really brave of you to read reviews on Amazon that are negative. I've got my book on Amazon, and it was a few years ago. It wasn't a really negative review, but it was like 3 out of 5, and the guy annoyed me because he was giving away stuff that happened in the book.
Yeah.
I think that's it's a bit unethical.
Yeah, we've seen that in our books too.
Yeah, and I wanted, I have this policy, my own personal policy. I'm sure most writers do. I'm not going to reply to any comments on Amazon.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
you have to do that.
It doesn't look good.
Exactly. You start to look petty and defensive, but we don't interact with the 1-star reviews, but we absolutely put them in some of our ads.
But you do read them.
Well, we've used 1-star reviews in our advertising.
Yeah, we actually read them because originally they were actually pointing out stuff we were missing. Not just 1-star reviews, but all reviews in general. A lot of them, because a lot of readers like to flex their knowledge, so they'll point out inconsistencies, and we're like, oh, okay, well, let's fix that. But now
that's good.
Yeah, now it's just we're using them so that we know we're on the right track for our intended audience, like our ideal reader.
Yeah, so who is your ideal reader?
Action movie junkies that like to read books.
You know, like Stephen King in his book, he mentioned having your ideal reader, like an individual person, as detailed as possible, and you write for that person. But
Right.
the thing is, Brian and I, we have such similar interests that I just write for Brian,
Yeah.
and Brian would write for me. So our ideal reader is literally just us.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, I think it's really. I think I remember that Stephen King saying that having the ideal reader in your mind is really good. I was going to say as well, like you mentioned about yeah, reviews. Yeah, I checked on Amazon. You know, you're really well reviewed. You
Oh,
know
thank you.
Yeah.
like how do you go about like selling your books, and how do you go about like marketing? Because it is still unusual for a lot of like indie like writers to sell so many books and to be
Yeah.
so well reviewed. To be honest, so I think it's really impressive.
Yeah, well, what happened was like when we did the trilogy for John Stone, we chose John Stone specifically because that individual book was selling a little bit better than the others. So we're like,
Yeah,
we'll just continue this. So we wrote book 2 and 3 at the same time, where Alan was writing 2, I was writing 3, because like we knew how it ended, obviously. So we had both available for pre-order, and I think that helped build up a little bit of a buzz, because then
right.
by the time we had book 4 for pre-order, we saw this sharp rise, and then by book 5 it was just like it was an avalanche of just Kindle Unlimited borrows, page reads, and sales. So
Yeah, I think
That's,
Amazon
that's
just the Amazon algorithm, they like rapid releases. So we were fortunate enough to be able to have books 2 and 3 released very close to each other,
yeah,
within a
right.
month of each other, I believe. And then that with the already slight success of book 1, it just helped give us the momentum we needed. And
Well,
but it's just
fantastic.
that book specifically, John Stone specifically, was that we went with that because it was outselling the other books we'd written. And I think by writing, ended up writing 9 John Stone books, and
Wow.
then we finished that years ago, and we're finally getting back to book 10 because people have always told us, when is the next John Stone coming out?
yeah,
Right.
But I mean, and then we've written almost 30 books right now we have released. And I think what helps is just having a big catalog. When people see a book you like, they tend to go, what else have they written? You know, so I think a lot of our other books that might not sell as well benefit from being in the same, in our catalog.
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I would definitely say so. Okay, yeah,
But
interesting.
but getting back to also marketing, we're using Amazon ads, we're using Meta ads, and it's rough out there. We're just
yeah,
I think a lot of it, just the momentum of we get as many people as we can into one of our series, and then if we just count on the read through of it, and then they see what else do they have. But getting any kind of traction in Meta right now is tough,
even
and
on
for
Amazon
us, we
today.
really struggle with Amazon ads.
Right. Yeah, how's you said you struggle with Amazon like as ads, sorry. In what way? Like, you mean you put an ad out there and people don't necessarily then buy the book, anything like that?
We put an ad out there and it won't even spend sometimes. Like, it's hard to get impressions and clicks on Amazon ads because we don't know the secrets yet. We've been spending so much time with Facebook ads. It's like we got a good grasp on how to get those to not
Right.
Yeah.
blow the budget, but on Amazon, it's like we're trying to tweak these dials, and next thing you know, it just blows the entire budget in like an hour. But then
Yeah,
the next
Oh,
Amazon is like
thing
a
you
like a
scroll,
bidding system
yeah,
for the clicks, and then we just never bid as high as everyone else. And to to get a click from someone, we have to set the bid so high that it'll just burn through
oh,
the budget. We don't get a significant amount of clicks, and not enough to justify an actual sale.
yeah,
So it's just we're just still working on that. That's really tough.
yeah. I've heard other people that have said something similar, not specifically about price, but like about they'll put ads out and nothing will happen, or the ads will only appear in places like Malaysia and stuff like that, and it doesn't
yeah.
really get much traction. So it's not the first time I've heard of that issue, to be honest, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, there's groups of people. There's like entire groups dedicated to one or the other. Like people that just solely advertise on Facebook only, and then groups
Okay.
that will only advertise on Amazon. We tend to do Facebook ads only, but then we tried to do the Amazon stuff as well because we figured if we can get that to work, it's doubling our chances. But even though it's double the budget, but it's you got to spend so much time learning the system.
Oh yeah.
And we spent so much time learning Facebook. It's like, and it keeps changing every 3 months.
Right. Yeah, it's a steep learning curve for sure, this business, I gotta say. But
Yeah.
to be fair, like you mentioned Facebook, I hadn't thought about advertising on Facebook, and the people that I've spoken to that have had negative experiences, they're talking predominantly about Amazon.
Yeah.
So again, for someone like myself, it's something to consider. Maybe placing an ad, just see what happens. Something like that. I mentioned at the start of the episode, Jack Strong series. I'm currently just re-editing it, just reading it again, just familiarizing myself with it. To be honest, and then I might just put a few ads out and just see what happens.
Are you
If nothing,
doing Kindle Unlimited? Or is
yes,
it? Yeah, we pulled our books out a couple years ago, and then just recently had to put them all back in because of how bad just Facebook ads has been this past
right,
year. So
right,
that's
okay,
another reason we tried Amazon again, was because our entire catalog is back in Kindle Unlimited. But
We don't
yeah,
want to say that Facebook is not working for anyone, because there's clearly people that have benefited from it.
sure,
It's just in our case, our
yeah,
specific case, and others that we've heard, we're just currently struggling, and it happened very recently, like last
yeah.
year, middle of last year.
That was
yeah,
why we started advertising on Facebook, basically, because we were selling the books on our own website, and it was, obviously we didn't want to advertise on Amazon if we're trying to get them to our website. So it was working very well for like 2 years, and then we saw like this drop off. I know a few other authors have seen it as well, but a lot of them are still reporting that they're doing good on Amazon, on
okay.
Facebook, still selling their books on their own site. But we've dialed back. So
Okay. Yeah, one of the best like marketing things I heard recently, and it's something I've not done. It's something I've thought about. Could I copy it, or could I like twist it to suit my own purposes? I had a writer on here called Curtis Chin, and he's traditionally published, and the publishing company must have organized these talks, but he was giving book talks in Chinese restaurants because the
Oh,
books by him
nice.
growing up in a Chinese
yeah,
restaurant. And all he did was, when he went to the Chinese restaurants, he just talked about food. He didn't talk about the book. And he said that he sold just as many books at those events as when he only talked
amazing.
about his books, say at a bookstore or a coffee shop or something.
Yeah,
And I heard that and I was like, but I couldn't do that here. I couldn't take my book to a Chinese restaurant and just talk. They wouldn't understand me.
That's a
So
cool idea, though.
we'll
Just
take it to the
find an
park and just
interest.
start talking about it and look
yeah,
like crazy people.
like take a bunch of books, and but where would you go? I don't know. But it's something I've thought about, and maybe at some point I'll be like sleeping and I'll wake up middle of the night and go and do it. I don't know, but I'll have to think about it.
Yeah.
What else was I going to say as well? Oh, that was it. Can't read my own writing. Yeah. So, what's it like you two writing together, like
Uh,
and working together? How's that like?
I thought it was gonna be like I said, when we wrote the second and third John Stone books, I thought he was gonna handle a first draft, I was gonna handle a first draft, and then we switch.
We both thought
That's
that.
that's how we started that process. But then it has evolved where I will write like the entire. Well, we'll come up with the actual like plot and outline together, and then I'll start on the first draft and hand it off to him, and he'll usually do like a pass and like a developmental edit, and that's like the
Right.
flow that we've fallen into, and it works better for us now. It's like a lot smoother, because usually I was writing the whole first draft, handing it to him, and then taking like his half first draft and then finishing in that. So it was like, because I was writing faster than him at the time.
He still does.
I know, but you're not writing full draft. Oh yeah, you just try to
Well,
write a draft.
yeah, so that's really the reason why we're doing it the way we're currently doing it, where I act more as a developmental editor, and
Right.
I help him with a second draft. It's just he writes so much faster than I do
And also,
in
my
general.
Oh, right.
first
Okay.
draft is a lot wilder, so we just need him to rein it in as far as like how many scenes and how long the book is, and like not the page count, but like the timeline of the book. Like he compresses it down to where it feels like more like an action movie, and then removes like a lot of chapters that I think are important until I read the draft and say, yeah, you're right, that had to go. It messes with the flow. So
Right.
So now that's the process we've got where it's a lot smoother. We're both in our more we're using our strengths more. So
Sure. And is that okay to deal with if you know you really like a scene or a chapter or pages, and then your brother says, "No, this is not good. You just got to go." Like, how do you deal with that? Do you,
I
like,
argue with him all the time,
right?
but I will remove it. I'm not gonna fight him on it. I'll argue, but I do remove it. So
Right. That's fair enough. I just wonder. I mean, like, because like the dynamic of maybe it helps that your brothers, because there's
that
not
might make
many
it
like
worse. Does that make it worse for some brothers? I don't
No,
know.
it makes it better.
For
No,
us, it's bad.
it's
For us.
yeah. We've both had scenes that we've written that the other one has said it should go, and while we might argue or put up a little fight, we don't. It always goes. There's never a strong enough reason to keep it. There's always a good enough reason to remove it or edit it.
The book is just as good or better with the scene removed, so it's not really worth fighting. And
One
like I
time,
said, oh yeah,
if
go ahead.
if I could just say, one time we wrote a book where we got all the way through the first draft, and then as I was looking it over, we just had this discussion. We're like, this story as it is isn't going to work, and we had to scrap the book, the entire book, and start over. It was one of the John Stone books we wrote.
It was the one where all the other characters join in, so it had to be a spectacle, and the story we're telling was like way too small for it.
Right. Okay. Just a small story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's
it
something I've
was
been thinking about recently.
Yeah, just
Go on.
having to get rid of a first draft was like we weren't like, is this a good idea? All this work we put in, and ultimately, when we saw the newer version, we just never we just said that was the idea. There was no, I can't imagine it being better than dumping that first draft and
I
writing
thought
it.
maybe we could shuffle in that parts of the first draft into the new book, but we took maybe one scene, and then everything else was scrapped. So, and we still haven't even found a place to use the rest yet. Like, we've been trying, but it's like maybe it's just not going to be
Right.
used. That's fine.
Well, that's fair enough, though. If you've still got it and you're thinking about using it in the future, or you could use it in the future, yeah, it's got to be tight. It's got to be tough, though. Scrapping the
We've
entire
got
book.
used to the idea. We've actually gotten used to the idea of just Brian. Well, we write fast in general, but Brian writes fast specifically.
Right.
But the idea that we're like, if we can always do it again, or if we lose it, we can rewrite it. We don't get so hung up on losing something or not using it that we don't get paralyzed with any kind of indecision about that. We just cut it quick and move on.
Yeah. Sure. You say you write fast. Like, how fast are we talking here? Like, per novel, or?
I mean, I know a lot of people write like 5,000, 10,000 words a day. I don't do that, but I write in the mornings before my day starts. So I'll write like 2,000, 2,500 words a day. Like,
Right, wow.
like every day. Like,
And
7
it's
days
the
a week.
consistency, the fact
Yeah,
that he's
so-
in and out, in there every
Sure.
day doing it.
Yeah. Although I've taken like the last week off because we were just finishing the last John Stone book.
Right.
So I haven't been writing as much, but that's fine. That's fine. I need a break.
Yeah, it's a lot. When I first started writing, I was writing like, yeah, easily 2,000, 3,000 words a day. But as my day job just got more demanding and that time shrank, I
Yeah.
settled on I'd say I probably average about 500 a day, but it's anywhere from like 300 to 1,000. I've settled on that.
Yeah,
To
so
be
you're writing
honest.
at least a full page a day, which is progress. It's
Yeah.
a step forward. So that was like, because when I got down to like 200 or 300 words a day, I found it discouraging and just basically stopped for a while. And then a friend of mine was like, "No, you have to set a new goal. It's 50 words a day, and you can't." I was like, 50? That's like nothing. He said, "Yeah, but you're going to keep writing though. No one's going to stop at 50. You just set the goal small, and then 300 feels like a marathon." And then next thing you know, you're back up to like
Yeah.
1,200, 2,000. So, if you have time, anyway. If you have time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a great piece of advice, like 50 a day.
Yeah, I think sitting down to start each day is the most important part, more important than how many you get in the day.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the same 300 to 1,000 word daily thing, but I just, writing every day is sometimes not doable for me, or I just don't get it done. I don't make the time
I've
when
been
I really
waking up
should.
way early for years, so I've been writing at like starting at like 5:30 or 6 in the morning before I start my day doing anything else. So I just got into that habit because no one else is up, and like my wife gets
Right.
up around that time, but she's not going to be like, "Stop working." So she supports that.
Yeah, that's always hard sometimes balancing writing and reading because, like, for me,
Yeah,
right, I
Hmm.
have to write, I have to read. So together, that's a minimum 2 hours a day.
yeah,
That's like a part-time job. Do you
Yes.
think
yeah, yeah,
that's a decent shift at Starbucks
yeah.
every day, and you've already got a full-time job and you've got a family? I find at times it's like it's not. I don't find it difficult. I don't have time to think about it being difficult or not. But sometimes
Yeah,
I step
Hmm.
back and I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
like this is why other people don't do it.
yeah. Because it's like
To be
it's
honest.
it's a very intensive task. Even though you're only doing like 2 hours a day, it's a lot of work in that 2 hours. So,
Oh
but
yeah,
as for reading, we I listen to audiobooks in on drives and walks, and then sometimes I'll spend my lunch reading, and then usually I unwind by reading. So we're
yeah.
trying to read a lot more, but it's like you said, it's getting a lot more difficult. Like
Yeah.
last year and the year before, I was reading like 50, 70 books a year, but
Wow.
I don't think I've read a single book yet this year. So,
I'm almost exclusively audiobook right now. I listen to it on my drive, and then when I
Oh,
do
cool.
chores around the house, I tried to read at night, and then I would always do it in the bed and read until I get tired, and then it's like I started to train myself that laying in bed reading means sleep. So I was kind of training myself to sleep while reading, and so I had to break that habit. And I was just trying to find different
Right.
times during the day to read. It's been tough.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I find like reading and writing. I started out set times a day, especially for writing. And especially now I've got a family, I find that these set times, it's like they just move around.
yeah,
And every day I got to think about, I'm going to write here at this time, or I'm going to read at this time. But I have to get it done. I can't not do these things, all these things.
yeah. But that's the thing. I was fortunate because when I started writing more seriously, my sons were in high school, so it was a lot less demanding
Right.
family wise. So
Yeah. I was going to say as well, like you mentioned about writing 50 words a day. It's something I mean, I don't do, but I always recommend to like when I see writers, especially online, saying that they've stopped writing or they're struggling with writer's block, I just say, right, just minimize your goals. Like
yeah,
Hemingway mentioned, sometimes he would struggle to write a paragraph a day. And he doesn't mean one of his 2-page paragraphs. He means 4 or 5 sentence paragraphs. That's what he
yeah,
means. And it's like, and he was doing that all day. And it's like just shrink your goals. And I think Alan said, you will always go beyond them, but you take the weight off your shoulders a bit. I do that sometimes, like if I'm tired and I realize, oh, it's just a bit of a grind, and I say, hey, you don't have to write loads, just write a little bit. And I always go way beyond it, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. Because you're not gonna stop. I read
Yeah,
like a friend of mine and we basically talk about the book Atomic Habits so much that everyone's sick of hearing about it. And in that book, he talks about like to build the habit to go to the gym. Sometimes you just put your shoes on, and then by the time like some days you'll put your shoes on, just drive to the gym, and then you're supposed to drive home, but no one's going to drive home after they drive to the gym. So like it's the same thing. Just writing 50 words is basically sitting in front of the computer.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Do you guys write on computers or do you write in like notebooks or something?
Computers, yeah, just uh, we write in Scrivener now, but originally we were writing on like Word and Open Office, which is the open source version of Word.
Yeah, I
I
still
have
do. I
a
still do Word.
I have a laptop I write in, but I don't like the keyboard on it, so I bought myself a nicer,
Right.
like a wireless keyboard with the keys that feel really nice, the little thocky sound when you type, and that has actually made a difference in how often I write and how long I write. Just the idea that I'm enjoying hitting the keys, because I used to just dread the way the laptop keyboard was set up. And then I realized one day, I was like, it's the keys. I just don't like hitting these keys.
But you were also dictating earlier too.
I tried that too. I
Yeah,
used voice dictation, but I don't know. Something happened where when I'm writing the words, I can come up with what I want to say. But when I'm saying it, I feel like I just have like a mental block when I'm trying to get the story words down. I can have a conversation with people, but when I'm trying to dictate what I want it to be in a story, it's just
True.
I just freeze.
it's like a different skill.
Yeah, I think writing. I think I'm echoing Stephen King here. It's crafting. It's when you're writing on the page, you're thinking about maybe how the words look, sound, what's happening with the story. What are you trying to achieve? When you're talking, you're just talking. I need to see the words on the page as I'm
Yeah.
talking to you now. I
Hmm.
need to see it on the page
Yeah, because you can just look up
because
real quick and see if you said something already.
yeah,
I get
and I
obsessed
think
with the word selection and the word order when I'm crafting sentences, and it's hard to do when you're talking it out.
yeah, me too. Yeah, just out of interest, you obviously you guys, you're writing your books and stuff. How do you go about getting like book designs? Do you do any kind of editing? As in, do you pay any kind of editors? Again, book designs. Who does that? How do you organize that?
We do the layouts and cover design, and currently we're doing all of our own editing. But I still highly recommend hiring at least a copy editor. But everything else we're doing on our own. Because
We
we're lucky. We have a graphic arts and illustration background, so
Yeah, we do our own covers.
yeah.
But as far as editing goes, some of our early books, we're getting some comments, and I think a lot of indie publishers just get it in general, where they say, "Oh, this book needs an editor," or there's mistakes. Yeah, we had mistakes in there, but then there were times when we were hiring editors, and we got more complaints on those books that this book
Right.
needs an editor. And we're just like, you know what? If we're just going to get the same amount of grief, and we could do it ourselves, and we've that's happening a lot less now. We're improving. I think we're improving as self editors. Don't do what we do though. I don't know how to. It feels irresponsible to say you don't need an editor. I mean, we all do need editors,
Hire professionals if you can.
but we do have graphic arts backgrounds, so we create our own
Right, great.
covers.
And layouts for print editions. We do all that as well. So
Yeah, when it comes to editing, I mean, I'll be honest, I edit and re-edit, and I think you can do that, and I do. I encourage other writers to do that, but I take your point as well.
yeah,
It's like I think if you're gonna self-edit your books, you have to really edit them, and you have to be prepared. I think you've said this. You have to be prepared to go back. You have to
Yes.
send out your books to many people, and it could be as I'm editing my Jack Strong series again, 10 years after the first book was written,
oh
and
wow,
not finding issues like typos. I'm finding like, oh, I've got a lot of run-on sentences here, and I've got to correct that.
Yes. Yes.
well what we're
But
trying not to do is we're not trying to do that George Lucas route where we make major changes when we edit
yeah,
older
yeah,
books.
yeah,
We're not making special editions. It's just like you said, cleaning up the flow of the sentences and stuff, which is it's hard to resist sometimes when you're looking at some of your older writing. You're like, I
yeah.
can do this better, but the book already has good reviews. Let's just leave it alone and move on.
That's a good point, that actually. Yeah, I think I was trying to be Hemingway with some of my sentences.
We
You
all
know, when
try.
Hemingway,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
When you read like The Old Man and the Sea, and he has a paragraph, like a long paragraph that's one sentence, and he does it so well.
yeah. Because
And
you're
I think I
in
was,
it. You're following along,
yeah, and I
so
would be, yeah,
you don't get
it's
lost when he
fantastic.
does it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was going to say as well, like, again, to anyone else out there, I do think if you edit your own work, you do get better at writing, though. There is this
Yes.
major
I
payoff
think so too.
that yeah.
I
I think
think
the only
we
problem is
also.
sometimes,
Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
Karen.
I think we have kind of that little built-in advantage of since we're passing the work back and forth to each other. It's easier because it's
Right.
easier to spot mistakes when you're reading someone else's
Yeah.
work because you often overlook your own mistakes. So this work constantly passing back and forth between us, I think that might help a little bit.
Yeah.
Definitely. I can imagine so. Yeah, I was going to say as well, I think when you're editing your own work, it helps your craft. But I think sometimes the payoff is later as you write subsequent books.
Yes,
You'll
I
start to get
agree.
first drafts. You'll have written a first draft and you get to the second draft and you'll notice, hey, I'm not making major changes here.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just that editing is feeding into your work so that when you're doing the first draft, your brain's thinking, well, better, for a better way of saying it, to be honest.
Yeah, like all the
You
wiring,
know?
it's understanding. Like your brain knows what you're
Yeah.
trying to say, and it gets on the page a lot easier. You don't have to do like 3 or 4 passes to mold it. Like it's pretty close now. So
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you guys as well. How do you feel about like AI, whether it's AI in writing, editing, or artwork for publishing and writing? What do you think about that?
Uh, I think I don't want to I don't want to get all angry here. I am of the opinion that if I see or know that you're using AI, I feel like you you're taking the shortcut. Like if you didn't want to actually write it, why are you expecting the readers to actually pick it up? Because it comes down to, like
Oh
you were
yeah,
saying, if you're writing draft after draft and editing, you're only going to get better. But if all you're doing is tweaking the flow and sentences of what generative AI is doing, then you're not really understanding how it got there. You're just kind of like tweaking stuff. And when it comes down to like your voice and your story, it's basically your voice is just a mix of every other author's stuff that a computer just handed to you. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
but as far as like editing, like we use Grammarly, and I know it's got like generative AI tools in it. I don't use any of that stuff, and I hardly even take the suggestions of Grammarly. I'm only looking for misspellings and like,
Yeah,
yes, you know, because some of their suggestions look good, but it's like it changes the actual meaning of the sentence. So we still have to read everything though. So I don't mind AI as a tool to help uh, finish the book, but I don't think it should be used in the creation of it. 'Cause I feel like you're not growing your strength and skills. So
Yeah, I like AI, the idea of AI as an assistant where, where it doesn't really help with the process of creating any of it, but it helps keep you on task. Or, it's for things like, hey, help me create a schedule for social media posting or things
right.
like that, but my
Yeah,
main concern about AI is just the ethical, environmental, and economic concerns where, how did AI learn? It scraped a lot of data basically illegally from already created works. So there's a huge class action lawsuit against Anthropic for doing that, for stealing authors' published works. So it's just like,
I just
it's already
saw
been
that yesterday.
proven that it's illegal. And then the ethics of it, that's the ethics of where they got the data from. Then the environmental impact of all the data centers being created, how much land they take, how much power they use, how much water they use. And then there's also the economics of just when when AI gets into everything, and you just see all these mass layoffs, just companies just laying people off because, hey, look, we don't need you anymore.
yeah,
We have the AI doing the work. So just as a greater, in the greater scheme, I don't like that part of AI at all. So just, I guess we come down basically negatively against AI. I
Yeah,
wish it would be a friendlier assistant to
the
help people
human
create.
assistance.
I wish it would let us do the fun parts instead of doing all the fun parts for us.
Yeah, but we're also like coming from the art side as well. Like you're seeing a lot of AI generated covers as well, and it's frustrating to see that. And I'm like, I pour in 20, 30 hours to do just the artwork for the cover before we even do
wow,
any type layout, and to see people just like cranking out this AI slop that the inside's probably the same, but those books are just flooding Amazon. So it's like
yeah,
we're
yeah,
not only competing against other like authors, like our peers, but like just this flood of like low effort books that it's not like they're probably going to do better than everyone and make all this money, but it's making everyone else's book harder to find, and it's getting frustrating in that because I was on like Audible searching for books, and there's so many virtual voice books as well, and it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
those aren't what I want.
And you just
And
yeah. No, it's
automatically
horrible.
assume if it's virtual voice,
yeah,
it was virtually written too.
yeah,
I understand the idea that there's people that just they need a book cover done and they just can't afford it because it's expensive to get a really nice book cover. So, and I wish there was an easier answer
there is
to handle.
pre-generated covers,
There
30
are
to
pre-generated
$80
covers. Okay,
pre-generated covers.
you're right, but no, I wish there was it's a difficult answer, a difficult topic to say. How I feel about people using AI generated cover art in general. No, I'm against it, but I understand why they would want to do it.
I'm not going to get in their face and yell at them, but
Yeah,
I'm not going to read their book.
we don't want to be that guy because if we to be fair, if we wanted to get in people's faces and complain about stuff they're doing, they have so many things they can complain to us about what
Yeah.
we're doing, like gold plated Mac 10s and our villains.
Yeah, with AI, yeah, I think for the writing process, I don't. I think I say you'd be hard to find writers who are in favour of it, but I've listened to
There
podcasts
are. Like Joanna Penn
where
is pro AI because she has like a hybrid approach and she loves
who
AI. But
sorry?
I'm like, Joanna Penn, she writes like 10,000 words a day and she's talking about using AI. It's like, why? You don't even need to do that. Like, you've already got
Yeah,
this skill and talent. You're telling people to take a shortcut and they're not going to be as good as you.
yeah. I've listened
I don't mean
sometimes to
to
the
call
pod.
anyone out. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's okay. There's a podcast called Dave. I don't know if you heard of David Perel. David Perel.
No.
No.
It's like it's a big writing podcast. He interviews writers like yourselves, but like in a studio. It's really high budget. I do enjoy it depends on like a lot of podcasts. The guest it's really good if the guest is really good, you know. So if you get on someone like Lee Child, wow, it's fantastic. But then you'll sometimes get on, and I suppose he can't help it. He has to get people on that are like business writers, like
Uh,
they write a book once every 6 years and they say, I'm a writer. And I'm like, no, you're not. But they will typically come out and say, yeah, I wrote a manuscript, it's 120,000 words. I gave it to, ChatGPT and I said, hey, think this is 60,000. And they just do. And I'm like, whoa, really?
yeah.
Like that, aside from the ethical issue, I'm like, right, so you're not learning how to get it down to 60,000.
Which is
I
the
get
hard
the
part.
idea that yeah, it's
That's
the
a
hard
hard
part,
part for real.
and, it, and it's the time part. Get it? It take because that would be their defense. Hey, it takes a lot of time. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's also the fun part, in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
this is the bit where you get. It's like let's go back to action movies. This is Rambo 3, right? And he's climbing up the rock face. That's editing sometimes when you've got a manuscript that's too large, maybe even sometimes too short, and you've got to write, new things, new parts. But that's what you have to do. And like I said before, you do get better at writing. So if you take that shortcut just to make, let's be honest, a few quick bucks, in the end, I think it damages your writing, not to mention credibility, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, if an author has written complete books that they're very proud of, and they've also used AI to generate, or do they have the same amount of pride in that AI generated one? Because I feel like you don't know what you would have gone through to get to that point. Because we're super proud of all the books we've written because we know how it got there. It's not easy. It's a lot of arguing, but actually a lot less arguing now. But yeah, so we
Nice.
have this pride, like when you're in that final stretch and you're just putting all these pieces together and stuff starts clicking and starts connecting the rest of the book, and you're like, wow, that this really came out much better than we're thinking it was going to be originally. I mean, we always hoping for the best, but sometimes the book ends up better than what we were expecting, and it starts tying not just one book, but like the John Stone series, we were tying stuff into book like 7 or 8 to like all the way to book 1, and that feels fantastic. I don't
Yeah.
think AI is doing that.
I don't think AI will. I was talking to somebody about this, and I said that when you write, you might be thinking consciously. John Stone goes into a room, does this. That's you thinking consciously. There's this subconscious self that's
Yeah.
also there, and is also maybe why do you choose that word and not another word? Sometimes you might I just felt it,
Yeah,
and
that
I
gets into
think that's the
that idea.
subconscious.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that gets into that idea that writers say sometimes their characters tell them how they want the story to go rather than. So I feel the authors say they
Yeah,
kind of lose control of the story because their characters have actually taken over, and a lot of that comes from just the subconscious idea. Oh, you know your character so well, you
yeah,
think you're going in this direction, but like no, you're right. You're right, character. You're right. You would do this. You know.
I used to think
yeah,
authors were kind of whimsical or nuts when they said their characters were speaking for them, until we have this one character, Ty Octane, who I'm just writing dialogue for it, and I'm just typing out stuff I would never say. I was like, how how can you get away with that? And it was like that was him, basically him speaking, is his voice. But I get it now. I understand because, like you said, it comes from the subconscious how you want this character to be and to act.
yeah,
So you're putting like every character, you're putting their voice in there, not just their dialogue, but in the way they act as well.
yeah. I think AI robots, more than what you will, don't have. I assume won't have subconsciousness.
Got
So
no
without
soul,
that,
man.
yeah, I think. But listen, I think they would be able to knock out maybe a pretty good, maybe a three stars out of five, maybe even
Yeah.
touching four, maybe 3 point out of five, like popular fiction book with characters that we've all kind of read before, as in
Yeah.
not original, but people might pick up at the airport. I think that's maybe possible at the top.
But I
I
think it's
think
just
beyond
gonna
that,
be I think it's just gonna be standalone. So I don't know if they can continue like
yeah,
AI can continue a series and see like character growth or like the
yeah,
evolution of like the world. So I think it's so easy to just crank it out just for like a I don't want to say money grab because some people think they can't actually write, so they lean on AI when they can write. They just don't want to put in the effort.
yeah, true. I
Same
think
with
that, like,
art. Pick up a pencil, everyone. Pick up a pencil.
yeah, true, true. I mean, editing, like, I was once, I remember I wrote a blog post, just a 1 page or 2 page blog post, and I was like, should I give it to ChatGPT for editing? And I was like, slippery slope. I was like, slippery. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And
Bravo.
I was reasonably tempted. I was like, no, because I was worried that it would, and I wouldn't have given it to it and say change things. I would ask for recommendations.
Right.
But I was worried that it would. You've got to be careful because I use Microsoft Word. You use Grammarly. You know it makes suggestions that sometimes are completely wrong, but other times they're not completely wrong, and it's just a different way of thinking. And
Yeah.
I think as a writer, you have to be prepared to consider it, but also go, nah. Like on my Microsoft Word, like if there's a spelling mistake, it's red, and if it's grammar or word
It's like
choice,
blue. It's
it's
blue.
blue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the last part of my editing phase, I go through the book and look at all those,
Yeah.
and I probably fix maybe 50%, 75% where, yeah, I've been a bit too wordy, but then the other 25%, I'm like, no, what? No chance. I'm not changing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times the suggested changes, the ones I completely ignore in Grammarly are dialogue. Like that's how the character said it.
Yes.
Unless I type something wrong, that's fine. But like, it's always asking me to change the way
Yeah.
stuff is being said. And it's like they're not talking like stuffy professors. They're action movie thugs. They're not gonna.
The dudes.
Yeah, they're just dudes, guys being dudes. So
Yeah, I mean, dialogue's an interesting thing alone. I was talking to a guy last week, Hayden Croft, and I think he made a good point about like Tarantino. In Tarantino's movies, people don't talk like Tarantino's characters in real life, but that doesn't
yeah,
mean
Yes.
don't enjoy it. And
exactly. Yeah,
so what so when people say you should have your characters speak like normal people, and I've said this before, but then that doesn't make any sense when you think about that as well. So
they should just talk like themselves, and I don't mean like be yourself. I mean, the character should already have, or the world, if you're talking about Tarantino, their world, everyone's got that style of talking. Like, I watched like 2 or 3 Tarantino movies, like back to back, like multiple weeks in a row. And I started thinking about using the phrase in point of fact all the time because they say it a lot in those movies. And I was like, should I be saying that?
I
I'm
didn't
going to call you
realize
out on it if I see it.
Nah. But like
that's so funny.
as far as like editing, learning to write slightly better from Grammarly, it's like I learned a lot more like the grammar rules that I either forgot or never knew. But at the same time, improving my writing comes more from reading other authors. Like my writing improved way
Yeah.
more from reading Elmore Leonard books than it did from using Grammarly to edit anything.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. I found just writing alone actually just helped improve my
Yes.
grammar so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Being honest. And yeah, you're right. Reading, yeah, read around. What kind of books do you guys read,
We read.
or listen to, or audiobooks, whatever?
Yeah, I read way outside of what we normally write, and not because I don't want to write sci-fi. I listen to like sci-fi, or read and listen to sci-fi, fantasy, nonfiction, a lot of stuff that we don't normally write is because we're trying to get into those spaces. Like we're trying to write more horror and sci-fi, but it's hard to get in there. But I listen to way more horror and sci-fi than I write. And I do listen to a lot of like thriller stuff, and it's not because we're just trying to like learn what everyone else is doing. It's just we just genuinely love action thriller stuff because I think our dad like got us hooked on a bunch of
Tom Clancy.
yeah, Tom Clancy,
Stephen Hunter.
Stephen Hunter, like the Bob
Right.
Swagger stuff, and I was reading those and Lord of the Rings at like the same time in like the early 2000s, 90s and early 2000s. So it just carried. Those are the kind of books I always read. I wanted to write those, but we're just in this on this road for action thrillers. So
My current favorite genre, it's been this for years, is prepper fiction, like apocalypse stuff, where the world ends, but this guy has a bug out bag and he's ready. He knows how to live in a world without power, and he knows how to protect what's his. It's I get really into that idea, that whole prepper bug out,
where some of his
apocalypse
favorite parts
stuff.
is when the guy goes over his inventory.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like, oh, he has a lot of food and a lot of guns, and then something happens where he loses all his stuff, and like, oh no. And then when he gets the smallest things back, you celebrate the little wins. Yeah, I'm just obsessed with the prepper fiction stuff, even though we don't write anything like that. Soon.
Yeah, I write that. I write like dystopian fiction, but it's typically young adult dystopian or new
Nice.
adult dystopian fiction. And yeah, do I read a lot of it? You mentioned Stephen King before. I loved his book, The Running Man. I read it
Oh,
twice. The Long
yes.
Walk's another one. These
Yes.
are the best dystopian fictions out there. And most people would know The Hunger Games. I'm like, Running Man's way better than The Hunger Games. Way better.
I like having read both Running Man and Hunger Games. I agree, but I did enjoy the Hunger Games trilogy. I thought it was. I understood why the movies were so popular after reading that. So
Yeah, I was very lukewarm. I liked the first book, but I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I like the character Katniss. Really like Katniss, and I like the world. The world of the Hunger Games. That was it called, the districts.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
I really liked that. I just thought like elements of the story, like Katniss doesn't kill anyone that's good, I found just a bit obviously young adult, and I think it needed to be worked on. And I was always thinking about, like, say, The Running Man at the time, and I was like, yeah, you need to just, and like the trilogy, I didn't like how, like, I don't want to spoil it anyone, but I don't want to give away the ending. But
oh yeah, I was
the,
about to
the
say something about it, but
narrative,
you're right.
yeah, the narrative progresses in a very linear way. It's very right. She's going to fight against. I forgot the name of the bad guy and the bad. Was it a district? I can't remember.
It was the
I hope
District
I'm not getting
1?
confused with.
the capital.
I'm not
Oh, the
confused with
capital.
District 9. I'm like, no. Yeah,
No, no.
and
Fantastic movie, by the way.
yeah, and she's rising up against them, and that's it. Yeah, she wins every battle, and then it's over.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, there wasn't a twist. There wasn't like something happened unexpectedly that, things don't go as you planned, and the other district get the upper hand. Because that's what happens in life, I tend to find.
Yeah.
That disappointed me a little bit. That's why I wasn't completely on board with it, really.
Yeah, the trilogy absolutely leaned way too much into the actual Hunger Games, not the
True,
system behind
And I
it.
get that.
Yeah. It's like a video game in that regard. It's like, yay, we're doing the Hunger Games again.
So you mentioned earlier, you said you write dystopian fiction, but you generally don't read as much as you write of that particular genre?
I read around a lot. I read around. I read like young adult fiction, and so I sometimes I'll write young adult sci-fi, sometimes young adult fantasy, sometimes young adult dystopian. So I'm always trying to get, and I do think I need to read more young adult fiction generally, but I do read it.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't.
I should be reading more.
I don't read the straight action thriller stuff probably as much as I should. When I do read it, it typically involves apocalypse themes. Like there's a zombie book called Arisen, a whole series, where it's just this military group. So it's like military action in a zombie apocalypse. And another one, what's that one called? The Lee Harden series. The Remaining. That one it's just a very prepper fiction set in a zombie type apocalypse.
We thought we beat up Jon Stone in our books.
Oh man,
That dude, he hates Lee Harden, his main character. I know he didn't hate him, but like that guy goes through so much. Like he gets
Well,
almost
yeah,
killed.
I think as a writer, you got to lay it on thick. You got to
Yeah,
really push that main character and go, "What are you made of? Are you really
Yes.
that tough? Because
yeah,
we're going to put you in some situations, you know."
Oh, yeah, we've done our fair
Uh,
share of that to John Stone.
yeah, I was going to say, I think my favorite genre are fantasy and sci-fi. That's what I try to read a lot of. And I was going to say, Alan, as well. I think sometimes when you're writing, it's I know how to write young adult. I think I do, but I want to get ideas in there. I'm trying to get ideas, and I feel like if I just read young adult fiction, the young adult fiction tends to be pretty good at character, very good at character, good teenage characters. But I think sometimes world building, other times plot, maybe the ideas and the themes, maybe not
Yeah.
as developed or as provocative, that's probably a better word, than what they should be. So in order to kind of address that with my own work, I tend to read around and you read something like, oh man, this is so good. This gives me an
yeah,
idea, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi when we were younger, and I think actually that a lot of the sci-fi elements kind of make their way into our action thriller stuff because we like to put near future tech stuff, like stuff that either is very early in development or doesn't quite exist yet in some of our books, even though
Yeah.
they're set as action movies. Because of that, Amazon categorizes the John Stone series as techno thrillers because there's lots of mechanical, like technical devices,
Okay.
hacking, and
Okay.
computer related things like that. And I think the interest that we had in sci-fi, especially Shadowrun books like that,
yeah,
have just kind of found their way into our writing. Just like what you're saying, you grab elements from other genres and put them into your work.
I've listened to podcasts of some writers saying they read the Bible, and that inspires them. And these are not religious people either. Maybe it's the language, maybe it's these
Uh-huh.
old school ideas.
epic tales and
So no, I really do believe in reading around. I really do. Okay, guys, I think we can end it there. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both, Ellen. I've got to say, I'm looking forward to read. I'm going to start with the first of your books, so
nice.
I'm looking forward to
Awesome.
that.
Thank you.
John
Yeah, thank you,
Stone, can't wait. Yeah,
thank you for
really,
having us.
especially now. Yeah, no, you're perfectly welcome. It's been absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
And yeah, and I think I learned a ton again as a writer as well. And it's good to meet people like yourselves from all over the world, but obviously America as
Yeah,
well. And fantastic.
So yeah, if you have a Kindle Unlimited account, all of our books are
Yeah,
there. You could just borrow and
I
read them all.
don't. Maybe I should. Maybe I should. I don't. But I am
It,
actually
if you read a
downloading
lot,
books
I would
one.
recommend it because there's just so many
Yeah,
books available to read on Kindle Unlimited.
yeah. Because I'm reading more indie authors now as a result of the podcast. I when I have guests on, or there's people in my groups, I try to check out their work, and if I like it, I buy it and I read it, and so I read the sample first,
hmm
and then go from there really. And yeah, maybe Kindle Unlimited will save me a ton of money, to be
yeah.
honest, because I've already downloaded a load of books that are traditionally published.
Yeah, you should look into it.
Yeah, I would. I'm gonna. Yeah, for sure.
I don't have any. I don't get any affiliate income from that. Anyone. I'm just if you're a fan of reading, there's a lot of bang for your buck from
Yeah,
a
yeah.
unlimited account.
I should have thought about it. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, okay, guys. Until next time, if you want to come on again, more than
Oh,
welcome.
absolutely.
Absolutely
Yeah,
Definitely, yeah.
especially if if you're doing a book launch or something. I think that might be kind of cool, and so you can
Oh,
express and
speaking
talk
of,
about that book. You know.
we do have a book launch.
Yep.
Brian, you want to tell them about it?
yes. John Stone, Book 10, Violence of
Oh
Action,
yeah.
is coming out Monday in 2 days.
Wow.
We had the pre-order going for like
Fantastic.
3 months to give Alan time to write it.
Right.
It wasn't enough time for Alan to write it, so I had to finish it. So,
Oh wow!
but yeah,
Throw me under the bus.
you said you write slow, not me. So yeah, that book comes out next week on Monday.
Is it Monday or Tuesday? Sorry.
Monday or Tuesday, I don't know. Monday or Tuesday.
Next week. It comes out next week.
Next week.
If you're
Right.
there Monday and it's not ready yet, you could always pre-order it and get it the next day.
Yeah. So everybody, go out. The John Stone series, Alan and Brian Manning, all over Amazon. Can't miss it, to be honest.
Yeah, if you go to Amazon.com and you type in the Manning Brothers, we show
Yep.
up above the
Right.
other Manning brothers, above Peyton and Eli Manning.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, guys. Like I say, it's been a blast. It's been a pleasure. Until next time.
Yeah, thank you
Enjoy
so
the rest
much.
of your weekend. Okay?
Thank you.
You
Yep.
too. Thanks a lot.
Okay. See you later.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.